Hello and welcome to RPG Ranked. Who is this voice? It is not RPG Ranked. No, it is Greg Troyan, another YouTuber who mostly does Thin Lizzy videos, but on occasion does JRPG videos and did 10 and a half hours of Final Fantasy content. And it
And they were
attracted
so good.
it attracted Mr. RPG Ranked who wanted to do a collab video together, and so here we are. Mr. RPG Ranked, thank you for letting me take over your channel temporarily.
Of course, man, of course. Super hyped for this.
And I'm sorry for cutting you off as you were about to praise me, so please keep on the praise.
Yeah, totally. After this video, 100% check out those Final Fantasy rankings. They're so good. I binge watched them and like all in a row, and I was like, it was so epic. And now my brother's binge watching them during his run. So yeah, great videos over there. So
Well,
yeah.
thank you. The kind words are appreciated. They'll be linked in the description. So for this video, we were chatting about we want to do a collab together, do something fun. And what we decided to do was something a little bit different, where we are going to discuss the top 5 RPGs we're most interested in playing. So not necessarily RPGs that we have a lot of experience with because we haven't played them, but what's on our radar, what we're interested in, what looks fun to us, and talk about why we're interested in them. So we're going to go back and forth, each of us. My list isn't in a particular order, but yours is. So let's start with what your number 5 is of like the 5 RPGs you're most interested in playing or want to play, and why. So what's your number 5?
All right, so my number 5 is Wild Arms 5, and it's kind of weird. I haven't played any of the other Wild Arms games yet, so I'll probably start from the beginning. But I've really been interested in the Wild Arms series for a while. My uncle Ben is like obsessed with the games, and he has asked me to play
Uh,
them like 100,000 times. But I've seen that Hex battle system, and I've always been really interested in that, as well as the Wild Western vibe. So, have you ever played that game?
I have not played any Wild Arms games, so I've seen your list, and there's only one of those games where I've played anything in the series, and it has like
Yeah,
a giant asterisk next to it. That's well, like no, well, we'll get to it when we
yeah,
get to it. I'm interested in
yeah,
Wild
for sure.
Arms, but I haven't gotten around to it. Of
Same.
the 100, how many RPGs have I beaten at this point? I have a Word doc. I am at, over the course of my many years of being an old person, 123 RPGs beaten. Uh,
Nice.
but unfortunately, none of them are Wild Arms games, but I am interested.
Yeah, I'm really interested too. I've always been, but yeah, I feel like I need to beat all the Final Fantasy games first and stuff because I'm not even that far, so kind of embarrassing. But um, yeah, I definitely have a lot of stuff on my list. So
I mean, hey, you've got a better track record with the Final Fantasy games than I did when I was your age. Because what I maybe beat two or I'm trying to remember that, like maybe like four, like max by that point. So yeah, you got me beat in that category.
yeah, yeah, I've only played 48 RPGs, so it's kind of funny that I even have a channel because I feel like I'm really behind the times. But yeah, Final Fantasy, love those, but and the biggest problem though is my parents won't let me play 16, so I'm already like at a huge disadvantage in that, but whatever. I'm going to college soon, so it won't be an issue for long, but yeah.
Well, hey, speaking of Final Fantasy 16, that is the first one on my list. Like I said, in no particular order. The main
Yeah.
reason for me is I've played all the other Final Fantasy games. I'm a big fan of the series, and I just want to play the one I haven't played. I played all the mainline ones, and
Yeah.
16, like I did see the cutscenes on YouTube, so like I am familiar with the story of it, and
Yeah.
I would definitely like to. And the thing is, I just don't own a PS5. I just like can't afford one right now, and so I'm just kind of just waiting for it to
Same,
come out on
same.
PC. Um,
Yeah.
but the thing is, like I've watched other Final Fantasies on YouTube before playing them, and then I've come to love those games. Where Final Fantasy 11, I watched the cutscenes on YouTube, and Final Fantasy 15, I watched the cutscenes on YouTube before I played either of those games. And so for me, it doesn't lessen my experience of a game when I do that. In fact, sometimes I enjoy it more because I like kind of know the rhythm of the story and know what to expect, and so I can just like really soak in the experience. It's almost like a second playthrough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally excited for 16 when I get around to it. So, yeah, that's the one on my list. I mean, I know a lot of people have a lot of criticisms about it, but I thought like story's good, characters are good, and really like that's what I'm here for. I don't mind if they like change up a lot of things as long as it's giving me something interesting and good.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, because a lot of people they go in with expectations like it has to be this thing, and I more try to meet the game. And I'm a story first player, so I'm like, is the story good, and am I meeting the story like where the story wants to be met? And so if you can like meet the game on its level and appreciate it for what it is rather than what it isn't, you can have a great time. And so that's why that's the number 5 on my list. But like I said, no particular order.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with a lot of that stuff. Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, so a lot of the cutscenes, I watched a couple of them. I only watched like the first two or something. Like I watched that big battle with like Ifrit or whatever, and yeah, watching cutscenes before a game is pretty cool. My best friend does that for all of his games before he buys them, and yeah, I think it's cool because you can see the like the setup and where you now that you know where it's building, you can see like the intricate details and stuff. So I think that's really cool that you decided to watch the playthrough first.
Yeah, and it gives you a different appreciation for it. Where like you realize like the pace in the game changes once you're actually consuming it. Like 11 becomes so much more epic because of how stinking long the gameplay is. Like it's just massive, and then
Yeah,
15 is actually I think better as a cutscene movie than as a game because there's so much just like wandering around doing random stuff in between. So, but you get a
yeah,
different experience from it. So I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun. But speaking of games that don't necessarily meet fan expectations, that have like a reputation in the community, your number 4, I think, really
it's great.
exemplifies that. Of like, it's not
Mhm.
what the fans wanted, but I think it is something
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. So it's Dragon Quarter, Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, and this is one of those games. Yeah, I like you said, if the game, I don't care if a game is different than the previous games in the series, as long as it's good. And that's what I've seen a lot of about Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter. The people who love it, like really love it, they say it's the best game in the series. They say that it's so innovative, so different, and that's really a type of game I really enjoy because usually if I just go in and it's another game just like the previous game, I'm like, we could have done a little more innovation here. So, I mean, as much as I love sequels like Octopath 2 that just take the original and make it so much better, I really like to see some experimentation. So, and I've always wanted to check out the Breath of Fire series, and Dragon Quarter just looks like a game like no other. So, I've always been really interested in it. And usually, I have some interesting opinions. So, if something is controversial and people don't like it, a lot of times I'll find myself really enjoying it. So, it just seems like one of those games I'll like.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of similar. There's a lot of like the Final Fantasy games that are popular to hate are ones that I quite enjoy. Like people don't like 2, they don't like 13, they don't like 15, they don't like 8, but I think like they're all really awesome games in their own ways.
Yeah.
So, and I think that there's like sort of the zeitgeist where like it becomes trendy to hate on something. But from what I've seen of Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, it seems like they did something interesting. The story seems cool. The gameplay I think could be annoying for me as a player based upon what I've seen. But I think it
Yeah.
would be a good experience and not like so annoying where like I wouldn't play it, but just like oh man I don't like some of the systems I think would like be anxiety inducing, but I think that's kind of the point. And so I'm
Yeah.
cool with it. I think it's a cool artistic statement. And I definitely respect it for what it does.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. So, yeah, I don't even know if it would be good, but I just know that usually I like weird games, so I'm down to check it out.
Yeah, and this the next game on my list. Actually, when I sent you my list, you're like, shoot, I was gonna pick that. So we've got similar interest in this. We've got the Gen d'Arc, which is the Joan of Arc Final Fantasy Tactics, like grid-based tactical RPG for the PSP, which is basically just
Yeah,
like Joan of Arc, but anime up the wazoo with like Final Fantasy Tactics gameplay, and just
yeah,
like the fact that Gilderai has a freaking like shonen anime transformation cutscene was like, you know what? Yes, I am down for this.
Yeah.
I know the spoilers for it about like, but wait, doesn't Joan of Arc die? Like, oh, there's a twist. But you know,
Yeah.
I'm a big history guy. It looks like it has like the right amount of camp, the right amount of drama. It just looks like a really cool game. And the main reason that I haven't gotten to this game and like the other games on my list, like because I do have it, but it's more an issue of there are other games on my list that are ahead of these games, which are basically my FOMO
Yeah.
list of games that like I think might not exist in the future. And if you've seen my Final Fantasy ranking videos, I just beat Dimensions 1 and 2, so those are off the list, which means the only
Yeah.
FOMO games left are the rest of Another Eden, and I will talk about that a little bit more when we get to one of your games, and
Yeah.
the rest of Final Fantasy 14. And so after that, I'm finally free from the shackles of live update games and can just play
Yeah.
offline RPGs again.
I know. That's why I haven't gotten in MMOs because I'm scared that as soon as I start playing it, it'll get taken down, and then I don't know. I should probably get on that, but
I would say
yeah,
11 was really I fell in love with 11. You saw my videos. I am so glad that I
yeah,
played through
yeah,
all of
yeah,
11. It is I think the most underrated mainline game because like no one talks about it, everybody skips it, and
yeah.
there's so many misconceptions where people think like, oh, there's no story in 11. Like, dude, 11 has like the most story out of any of the games.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard the story's great. Yeah, my uncles are really into the MMOs, so they've told me all about it, and I keep wanting to, and then I keep getting mixed up with new releases, and yeah, it's not that I don't want to. I'm just,
I think the
I don't
way
know.
to approach 11, if you do get around to playing it, is just treat it like you're playing like you're playing an entire series. Like treat it like you're playing
Yeah,
like 12 RPGs in a row, except your stats carry over. Like that's the way to approach 11. You'll get it done in like 6
gotcha.
months. But you have to like really approach it that way as opposed to like an MMO where you're just like, "Oh yeah, I'll play here and there." Like no, just treat it like okay, like the way you beat Final Fantasy 1 through 10 is kind of the way you have to beat 11.
Oh my gosh. That sounds like a lot. I'll probably be done with a year of college by the time I'm done with that.
Yeah,
So,
but hey, it's a fun time. Um,
all right.
but we're at your number 3, and it's another game where I haven't touched anything in the series. So talk about your number 3.
So my number 3 is Suikoden 3, and I always hear about Suikoden 2 and 5, especially. Suikoden 2 is like considered one of the greatest games of all time, and Suikoden 5 is a lot of people say it's just as good. And I've heard it's a really great sequel. The graphics still hold up. My dad is in love with Suikoden 2 and talks about it up there with like Final Fantasy 4, which is his favorite game. And it's always interested me with like 108 characters. Yet people still say the story's great, and that just is crazy to me that that many characters can have a great story. They say there's three types of battle systems, all like the political intrigue and stuff. And like you said, with the history and stuff, I love history too. Like AP US history is like my favorite class, and Suikoden has that kind of. It feels like it's like in a different era, and I think that's really cool. And 2 and 5 still look really cool. But what I love about 3 is the idea that you get. I think there's 3 different characters or more. I think there's more because you get to see perspective of the villain. I think at one point, but you get to see the different perspectives of the different characters, and I always love those type of games, like Live Alive and Dragon Quest IV, some of my favorite games, Octopath. So it kind of reminds me of that plus Suikoden, and I just think that I'll like it a lot. I've heard the battles are really slow, but other than that, I've heard a lot of praise for it, so I'm super excited to check it out.
Yeah, I mean I haven't played any of the Suikoden games, but they all look interesting. They're on my list. I have a list of like 100 RPGs I'm interested in playing. So just like that'll be just like
Yeah,
the
I've
rest of
got.
my life before I die. Like I'll get to some of them.
I
um,
know that's my life too. I'm thinking the same thing, and there's so many releasing these days. I don't even know anymore.
yeah, but I mean another fine pick, and my next pick is actually another third entry in a series. So my next pick is Mother 3, which
Oh yeah,
the sequel to Earthbound. So Mother 1, Earthbound, aka Mother 2 and Mother 3. So I've beaten Earthbound and it was a really fun experience. And I've played like the games on my list, I played like maybe like 15 minutes of all of them. So I have played like a tiny bit of Mother 3, a tiny bit of Gen Dark, and like a tiny bit of the other games aside from Final Fantasy 16. And
Hmm.
Mother 3 has such a stellar reputation as just being this incredibly deep, rich story experience. And just like, that's what I mainly play RPGs for. I'm a story first player. I
Same,
do want to
same.
play Mother 1 because, I mean, I enjoyed Earthbound and I would want to complete the trilogy. But because Mother 3 has such a stellar reputation, and because I enjoyed Earthbound, I want to see what Mother 3 has in store for me. I'm definitely interested in it. I don't know if it will live up to the hype, but I expect I will enjoy it quite a bit. And so, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely down for Mother 3.
Yeah, I gotta check that one out. And Earthbound. Actually, I almost started Earthbound yesterday, but then started a different game instead. But I'll probably get around to it soon. But yeah, that series seems really cool, and really excited to check that one out too.
Yeah, I mean, you actually caught me like as I'm transitioning between games because I finished Dimensions 2 yesterday, literally yesterday. So,
Nice,
and
nice.
it was a great time, and I enjoyed watching your Dimensions 2 videos to A B and compare my experience. I think you put Amo as the best character, which is
Yeah,
like
I did.
obvious. I mean, that's and
Yeah,
yeah, it's very obvious.
that game is it's such a underrated game, I think. Like, I mean, yeah, there isn't really like a world map, but I had a fun time with that game. Especially the Eureka arc was super cool.
The Eureka. I mean, we could get derailed talking about this, but the Eureka art to me, I enjoyed it, but it felt a little rushed. But based upon what I know
Yeah,
about the development, like it makes sense. But
yeah.
because I played some other like gotcha games before, I was able
Mhm.
to get into the gameplay and enjoy it for what it is. And because like I basically play everything on my PC, and I
Yeah.
emulated the game with BlueStacks, so like I bought a copy, but I instead of
Yeah.
playing on my phone, I played on BlueStacks. What I like
Yeah.
about that is that it makes all the games I play on equal playing field. So like I played Final Fantasy 15 on the same machine I played Final Fantasy Dimensions 2. And so it
That's
didn't make
cool.
one necessarily lesser. I was able to appreciate both of them as like on equal footing. And obviously, I enjoyed
Mhm.
15 more, but still
Yeah.
it's nice that there's that option there.
Yeah, my favorite part, I mean, we can move on in a second, but my favorite part of that game was the characters and like the character skits. I really
Those were
loved
great.
some of the characters.
Those were
Ryag.
I was very
Yeah.
impressed with that, and I thought it was kind of like the private actions in Star Ocean where it's just a little character
Yeah,
flavor,
exactly.
and that made the
Yeah.
cast much more endearing. And so I mean, I'm sure this is controversial among the people who played Dimensions 1 and 2, but I vastly prefer Dimensions 2 because of how good the character stuff was. um
Yeah, I used to like Dimensions 2 better, but I think they're almost equal though, really. I like Dimensions 1 a little better because I have nostalgia for it because I was like playing it at like my grandma's house and it just gives me those memories. But yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think Dimensions 2 is mostly a better game, but yeah.
all right, well, to keep things moving, so next
All
up
right,
on my
let's move on
list.
to the next pick.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next pick.
My turn now.
Yeah, it's your turn. So,
Or
and this one I
okay.
have some commentary on, but I'll let you go.
Um, which one did I put? Was it the Trails series? Is that what I
Yeah, the
had?
the Tales of Zillia 2.
Oh, Tales of Zillia 2. My bad. My bad. So I really loved the original Tales of Zillia, and I really want to play it again. I played it for the first time. It was one of my first RPGs. I think I played it when I was like 7, and 7-year-old trying to understand Tales of Zillia. That game has such an intricate combat system and stuff. So first of all, I just want to replay the first game, but even still, I have such fond memories of that game, and I remember loving the combat and all that stuff. I didn't do any of the side quests because I was a silly kid, but I love the game. I have started it like 6 more times after that, but I keep saying, "Well, I've already played this game." So, but I mean, 7-year-old playing isn't the same. But then I've seen Tales of Zillia 2, and you get to control the main villains of the first game, and you get to control this new guy, and you get to see all the effects. Whereas, and I've heard the game is awesome, and I feel like it was kind of a redemption for the developers after like Tales of Symphonia 2 didn't do that well, so they decided to make a sequel and it kind of has the same idea, but I've heard it's so much better. And the people who love Tales of Xillia 2 say it's one of the best entries in the series. And as someone who still thinks Tales of Xillia is my favorite Tales game I've played, which is probably controversial, but I just loved the original and want to play it again. So the second game is really interesting to me. So yeah.
Nice. And so this is where my asterisk comes in, where so I have Tales of Symphonia. I started a little bit of it with the wife, and
Yeah.
she just wasn't into it, so we dropped it. Um,
Yeah.
but there is a crossover event in Another Eden, and the crossovers in Another Eden are basically entire mini like 10-hour RPGs.
Oh wow, that's long.
And so there's an entire Tales of, I think there's actually two Tales of crossover RPGs in Another Eden.
Yeah.
And it was Tales of Symphonia, and what's like the new one with the guy who can't be like injured, and the girl
Is
who
it
has,
Tales of Arise?
yeah, Tales of Arise. So
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Another Eden, they have Tales of Symphonia characters and Tales of Arise characters getting transported into the world of Another Eden,
That's
and
cool.
you like get to have them in your party. They become permanent party members. So like you can play with them with the rest of Another Eden, and they have specific
And
mechanics
so-
from the Tales games in Another Eden.
Oh my
Like
god.
they add a cooking system in just for that mini game, and they
Oh,
have like kind of like the private actions things. That the Tales games have, they're called something different, but they have those. Even
the skits.
yeah, the
Yeah.
skits with like the
Yeah.
the anime like text boxes. They have
Oh
them
my,
in. They add that in. And Another
that's
Eden,
crazy.
it's Masato Kato, so the guy who did Chrono Trigger, and
Yeah.
it's free to play, and it is excellent. Like there are gotcha mechanics, but you can avoid them very easily. And if you need stronger units, just play the crossovers. Like there's one with Chrono
Yeah.
Cross, there's one with Persona, and
Dang.
you get those characters permanently. They're entire mini RPGs, and they're some of the best units in the game. So like you can like pay to get better units, or you can just do the free like side RPGs, which they never take
Yeah.
away. Like a lot of gotchas get rid of their content. Another
Oh,
Eden,
they don't.
it just stays there forever. So like if you're like, oh no, I missed the Chrono Cross event, like good news, it's just there forever.
Okay, that is honestly what I hate about those type of games. So I'll have to check it out. Is that on PC
Yeah,
or
it
what's it
is.
on?
It's on PC. It's on phone. It doesn't have controller support, but if you use Joy to key, you can set up your controller to make it run. But
Okay.
it is absolutely great, and that's what my next game that I'm going to be playing is. It's not on my list because I'm not
Yeah.
counting those because like I'm already like knee deep into that in 14. But
Yeah.
it's a great experience, and what a lot of people love about Another Eden is that it doesn't feel like a gotcha game. It's got
Yeah.
world map. It's got random encounters. It's got like balanced leveling. It's got it's
Wow.
got tons of characters, but like you can play through it without spending a cent. And
Yeah.
it's the kind of game where like you want to like spend like a buck or two just because they made such a good game, but
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, it's a great time. So the only Tales game I've technically beaten is the Tales game within Another Eden, but it was a great time and it makes me want to play more of the series.
Yeah, I've actually like it's one of my favorite series because I love the games that I've played in it so much, but I've only played 3 of them and which is kind of funny, but I played Vesperia and Xillia and they're like both in like my top 15 games of all time. I wasn't a big fan of Symphonia, but I understand why other people are. That's one of my lesser RPGs in my opinion, but that's mostly just a me thing. Like I can see why people love it. It just didn't resonate with me too much. But yeah, I love the Tales series. I really need to get into some of the other ones, and I think Tales of Xillia 2 is the first one I should get into. So,
Yeah, I mean it looks like a great game. And speaking of games that look great, move on to the next one on my list. So
alrighty.
this is another one that this one I started with the missus, and we didn't get too far into it because it was too dark for her taste, which I totally understand. Uh,
Yeah.
which is Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13. So
Oh yeah.
the third game in the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. So we played through the first two games. I like them both quite a bit, and this one, like, I mean, I know the story spoilers, And so I know like generally what the outline of the narrative is, but I just want to just experience it myself. It's fun with what I played of it, and I really enjoy the Fabula Nova Crystallis games that I've played. So like I said, I played a little bit of this game. The last
Yeah.
game on my list, the only one I haven't played is 16 of the games on my list. So like I know what I'm getting into, but like I enjoyed what I experienced of it and just want to play the rest of it. It's the combat's good. I don't like the mechanic of like you only have like 13 days to save the world, like the Majora's Mask, like the world's
Yeah.
going to end, you have to keep sending the clock back. Like I'm not into that, but the story, the exploration, the combat was all like engaged enough. We're like, yeah, I'm down. I wanna finish out the trilogy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't played any of the 13 games, but they've always looked like games I would really enjoy. Like I said, I usually like like games a lot of people don't like, so I've always been really interested in them. And for the time mechanic, how far you got, I don't really know, but do you still keep your equipment and stuff, or do you lose everything every time it restarts?
Though I mean, I didn't get that far into it, but basically, I think like
Oh,
you
okay.
keep your experience and equipment. It's more just like you have to do the quests over again. But there also
Okay.
is like a way to cheese the system where like you could just keep doing this ability that freezes time, and so you just keep
Okay.
spamming that,
Okay.
and just
That
only unfreeze time when you like need to go somewhere and you need it to be a different time of day. So I will play that one with a guide because I do want to
Yeah,
maximize my
same.
efficiency.
I agree with you on that one, but
But I don't mind playing
yeah.
with guides. Like it's just like whatever. Like Dimensions, when I was playing Dimensions, I started off without a guide, and then I got to
Yeah.
Mazewood, which is like, oh, it has maze in the name. Yeah, I'm gonna use a guide for this part. I don't
Yeah,
I
I
don't feel
do
like
that a
getting
lot
lost
too.
doing random battles forever. I'll just use a guide.
Yeah, usually what I do is I look up before how much missable content is in a game, and that's usually what determines whether or not I use a guide. Like the Tales games, I like religiously use a guide, but like Dragon Quest or like Paper Mario, I usually don't use guides because there's not really missable
Yeah.
stuff. And I don't dislike guides at all. I think they're fun, but as long as it just depends on the game for me. So yeah, I totally agree on that.
All right. Well, we're at your number one. So tell me about the number one game on your list.
All right. So there's this there is a game that I've always adored since I was like this one is I think the game that made me really fall well, Final Fantasy 1 and 2 and Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door are some of my nostalgic games, but I think this is the one that really made me love RPGs, and that's the original Ni no Kuni Wrath the White Witch. And me and my dad used to be a big gamer. Now he's not really. He's more of a athletic guy and stuff. Runs, does stuff like that. He's changed a lot of his interests since then. But when me and my brother, I think I was like 5 and my brother was like 3, we would sit down on the couch and sometimes we'd stay up until like 2 a.m., which I don't know if that's really good for a 5 and a 3-year old, but we would stay up sometimes really late into the night watching my dad play Nino Cooney, and he would always be on his phone, and then he was like texting his brother or something. We would always make fun of him, and it was just and we would always make fun of him for doing the side quests because 3-year-olds don't understand that side quests are beneficial in an RPG. But we were just having such a blast watching my dad play Nino Cooney, and we would make him name familiars dumb things, name them after our like friends in like preschool and stuff. Like it was it was fun, and we soon played it like when we were like 8. Me and my brother both picked it up, and we've both completed it like 5 times each. It's that one game for me I've played way too many times, but just because that's like my nostalgic game for me. But Nino Kuni 2, I've never even booted up. I've never touched it. We have it on PC and on Switch, and I've just never played it. And I think it's because it's super long, and I just really want to finish Final Fantasy games. But and it's not like a lot of people don't want to play it because there's no familiars or whatever, and I'm fine with that. The combat looks good, the story looks good, the town building looks good. My brother, my dad played a bit of it, and it still looked awesome. I have no idea why I haven't touched this game. That's why it's number one on my list because it's a sequel to my second favorite game of all time, and I don't know why I haven't touched it. So yeah, that's my pick.
I mean, that is also so. I have played actually no, I haven't actually played Ni no Kuni. That is another game that I have. I have the original, and that is one where I did I actually that I got from my wife, and because I thought she would
Yeah,
like it, and she actually played a little bit of it by herself when I was sick one night because she doesn't like doing the RPG battles. She's very much a pacifist, so she lets me do
yeah.
the fight and all the dirty work for her. Um,
Uh,
but she did play that while I was sick and actually did some of the battles herself and didn't die. And she was very proud that she didn't die in the battles. But we just never, like, never went around to like playing it or fully going through it. But we do talk about Mr. Drippy on occasion and just say flippin' to each other. So we do have that. But again, another game I'm interested in. Just there's so many games. There's so many games.
I know, I totally agree with that. Yeah, that one's really special to me. It's I don't know if you know this, but my favorite game is Lost Odyssey on the Xbox 360. But yeah, Ni no Kuni's right behind it. It's not for everyone. I know there's some people who really don't like it because they don't like monster catching, or they don't like the story's super simple. It's done so well, but it's like one of the most simple stories when you really break it down. But I don't know, it's just a really charming game, so I love it. And nostalgia blindness just happens sometimes. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I'm definitely down for it, which is interesting because like I'm not a Studio Ghibli guy in general. I don't really
Oh, me
like
neither.
Yeah, I don't really like most of their movies. I like Kiki's Delivery Service, but I think that's just because the American dub was just really, really
Yeah.
good, and they just add lots of jokes. But in general,
Mhm.
I'm just like, Ghibli is like, I don't think they're bad movies, but I just don't vibe with them. Like, I'm not like, oh, they're so great,
Yeah.
like everybody else. Like, yeah, it's fine, just not necessarily
Yeah.
my thing.
For me, the only one, like, I adore Ponyo, but I think that again, that's a nostalgic thing, though. That used to be my favorite movie when I was little. But yeah, I don't really, most of them are just kind of boring in my opinion. I mean, I know they're well made, but yeah, Ponyo is the only one I really likes. But yeah, I think the animation is really good, though. And yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend say, "But Greg, don't you think Grave of the Fireflies is great?" I'm like, "It's not Studio Ghibli." I'm like, They're like, "It's not." Like, nope, sorry. If
Yeah.
it was, that'd
Uh,
be their best movie, but it's not them.
yeah. Yeah. Or I like the people who made Your Name and Weathering with You. That's
Oh
my
yeah,
favorite. Or Silent Voice. Silent Voice is so good.
I wasn't into
It's
Silent
cool.
Voice, but Your Name is one of my favorite movies ever made.
Yeah,
It's absolutely incredible.
it's so good.
It's like it's in competition for my favorite romance film of all time. It's like that and the 1939
It's
Wuthering
so
Heights
good.
are like neck and neck.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. I loved Your Name so much, but, like, I have weird memories with it because like, I watched it with this girl I really liked, and, like, she broke up with me, so it was a weird movie for me, but, like, if that weren't the case, it'd probably crack, like, my top 3 favorite movies. I think if I rewatch it in, like, 5 years, I'll really enjoy it, but right now, it's kind of one of the weird movies for me, but yeah, that's a great movie.
Oh yeah, absolute
Yeah.
masterpiece. And
Uh-huh, for sure.
the final game on my list, not maybe not a masterpiece, but it's on my list. Like I said, mine are in no particular order, where yours were
Yeah.
in more of an order. But I've got Final Fantasy Type
Yeah.
Zero, which
Yeah.
again I played a little bit of, and I know what I'm getting into. But I think what really interests me about Type Zero is that it feels almost like a lost mainline Final Fantasy, where like you've got a world map, you've got a really like distinct visual direction, art style that isn't really replicated by any other game in the series. Like you've got like a school thing like Final Fantasy VIII, but they've all got really like stylish uniforms. Like I think what I love about Final Fantasy is that each game like kind of reinvents the series and does its own thing.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
so good.
like Dragon Quest, it's just sort of like the same game like 10 times in a row with some different mechanics. But like they don't
Yeah,
change it up, which is fine. But I like how
yeah,
Final Fantasy like reinvents itself, and Type Zero feels like almost like a mainline in the way it reinvents itself, but obviously doesn't have the budget. And obviously, I know the story spoilers, so I know where like there are some weaknesses in execution. But I
yeah.
enjoy the little bit of it I played, and it's just I want to get around to finishing it because it seems like an enjoyable experience. Like, I mean, obviously it's very bleak. It's got a lot of sadness. It's got, it's a
Mhm.
dark game, but I think I
Yeah,
would enjoy it for what it is. And Like I said, I enjoy the other Fabula Nova Crystallis games. So
Yeah,
it's one of the ones I'm more interested in. I've like the my giant list. I'm like, yeah, I want to play Type Zero. Um,
yeah, sure.
quick honorable mention to Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles: My Life as King, because that was like my honorable mention. Like it looks like a cool city sim. But like Final Fantasy Manager Edition, we're just like you just manage the city and manage the adventurers and like, but you actually get to
Yeah.
walk around and like talk to the NPCs. Like that looks like a fun game, and that's my honorable mention.
Mhm.
Do you have an honorable mention you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, for sure. Type Zeros actually would have been one of my honorable mentions, so I want to talk about it just really quick too.
Yeah, go
I
for
didn't
it.
put it on here because again, it's one of those ones I'm not allowed to play, but I'll play it eventually. But it's super cool because the combat seems really weird because like your characters die in like 3 hits, and I've always thought that was super cool because like the idea is that you're kind of just like nameless students in a war, or at least that's what I've heard. I'm not really so sure, but that one's always looked really cool. I don't think it's ever looked bad, and I agree with you that I love how Final Fantasy always innovates because people just want the same game, but I'm like, dude, Dragon Quest is an amazing series for that specifically, and every game is just as good, but yeah, what I love about Final Fantasy is they always want to reinvent stuff, and Type Zero seems like its own thing. And the combat, I watched a video of it, and it looks super cool. I love how it feels. It looks difficult and very interesting. Everyone has a different play style, so I'm really interested in that game as well, actually. So yeah.
And so was that your honorable mention, or did you want to have a different honorable mention?
My other honorable mentions are just things we've talked about a little bit already. Final Fantasy 13 was really my only other one, but I didn't want to talk about that because I mean that's Final Fantasy 13, and really most people have played that. But like I said earlier, I think I would really like it because I'm weird and one of those people who like I'm literally someone who likes Final Fantasy 2 better than Final Fantasy 7. I'm like that type of weird dude. And so I've always thought that I'd really like Final Fantasy 13. And yeah, so I've always wanted to check it out.
I mean, I definitely like seven more than two, but also like I
Yeah.
in some ways I enjoy two more than six. So like I understand having like the hot take of Final
Mhm.
Fantasy fans. Like I
Yeah.
totally get that. Just like
Yeah, for sure.
different strokes for different folks, and hey,
Mhm.
I dig it. I enjoy people having interesting opinions. I think that's what
Yeah.
makes it funny because I'd rather that than just someone who's like, what, six is the best one again. Like, yeah, we get it, we get
Yeah,
it.
I've read way too many articles where 2 is in last, and then 13, and then 8, and then 12, just because all those ones are different, and then you get 7 and 6 tied for first with
See, usually
9 and third.
seven is usually like third or fourth because they like try to act like no, seven's just the popular one, but really it's all
Yeah,
about you know
I
six
yeah.
and nine, which like
I think it's weird. I think it's weird when people do. I mean, I actually like I am one of those people who don't love 7, but I'm not gonna like I I don't know. I feel like when it's like people put it in third or fourth sometimes. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but for me, it's like in like sixth, and I
if it's
don't.
authentically six and if it's authentically third or fourth, that's how it is.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah. Some
my
people are just you can tell.
my big beef with the Final Fantasy ranking consensus is not necessarily that I don't have an issue with people thinking that six is the best one. My main
Yeah,
issue is that people think like six is so like leaps and bounds better than the other ones. Is where I'm just
yeah,
like,
and it really
eh.
is not.
Yeah, I mean, like, it. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a masterpiece, but so is
Yeah,
like four and seven
yeah,
and
for
even
sure.
eight is a masterpiece. Like maybe not
Yeah,
in story, but in terms of gameplay, like you could make a very good argument.
it's
So
so fun. And I played them all in order, up to 10-2. I haven't played the other ones yet, but like, I mean, I played 6 and it was still my favorite. But if someone says 6 is their least favorite, I don't care. It's not really like the reason I just really liked it is I loved the World of Ruin, and I remember in one of your videos you said you didn't really love it because it's like it story wise it is pretty awful, but that's what I love about like Dragon Quest 2 and 4 that I've just played. Like you get thrown into a world and you just have a lot of stuff to find, but it's also not like an open world game where there's like expanses where there's literally nothing to find. So anyway, that's why I love FF6. If it were just for the World of Balance, I'd probably put it low tier, but I just love the World of Ruin, so that's why. Like I love FF6 particularly, but
Yeah, I mean, and I still like the thing is like people when I talk about FF6 and I don't rank it as number one, they're like, "Oh, you hate it." Like, no, I still really like it.
no,
Just like
yeah,
other stuff better, and I'm just not gonna pretend that
yeah,
it doesn't have some flaws because it does. Just doesn't mean it's
yeah,
not great.
yeah. For me, that's 7 because my thing about 7 is I loved Midgar so much. I loved all of that. And then once I got like I loved Shinra and stuff, but I just never really resonated with the whole like Sephiroth plotline like a lot of people do and stuff. So I found the beginning of the game in Midgar and the end of the game in Midgar like so fun for me, but then I just didn't really resonate with the rest. But I love that other people like it. Like I wish I could like it like that, but yeah, just everyone has totally different opinions. So yeah.
Yep, and we could go on for a very long time, but we did start a little bit late, so we're cut it off here. But thank you so much for letting me hijack your channel. All of you folks who are here, you already know where to find RPG Ranked. So if you came here because you saw my community post, make sure you subscribe to RPG Ranked. And if you're interested in my Final Fantasy videos, thank you to RPG Ranked for linking it in the description. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Anything you want to plug on your own channel while we're here?
Oh, well, again, check the description. I'll put a subscribe for him and the like the please subscribe thing and the link to the playlist. And I don't know. I'll put my own Final Fantasy playlist in the end screen as well. I've made quite a few Final Fantasy videos, but or just RPGs in general. Like if you haven't been here before, lots of RPG stuff. And again, thank you for joining this video. This is so fun. Let me know if you ever want to do this again sometime. So yeah.
Yep, it'll be a fun time to do it in the future. Thank you so much, and yeah, make sure you subscribe to both our channels. Bye, everyone.